Well, it's that time again, folks. Sean here. Rimshots with Sean, brought to you by Barstools and Bandtalk. This is a long overdue chat. I met this fella. It's almost 2 years ago. Going to be a really neat story. First off, Mr. Clint Newcom, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well.
So, I've had a lot of people that have been on me to get you on this little old show and stuff, and just stuff happens. But here you are. You've got a really neat story. Now, the people in, I guess, the business around here kind of know your deal. But why don't you tell everybody kind of your background and what you've done and how you wound up here?
All right. Well, I'll try to make it as short as possible. Basically, I was, as a music career, I actually really didn't even try to attempt a music career until I turned 30. And it was kind of neat. I was actually working at Nissan in a factory at the time, but long story short, I was able to get an audition for country artist Billy Currington, and I actually got the gig. And soon after, I was able to quit my job and do that full time. And I played with him for about 6 years on the road. And during the last year of touring, or close to the last year of touring, I ended up doing a show up here in Halifax. It was actually the last concert that was on the Commons before they turned it over to the new Oval, what it is now. And actually, I met my wife up here, and when we decided on where we wanted to live, we decided to choose up here because I've always wanted to live by the ocean.
Yeah,
so
yeah, for sure.
So I made it pretty easy.
So now, you've been living here how long now?
It'll be 11 years.
Okay. So, and, up here, the appearances, you came out of nowhere. That's not
Right.
true. And you're maybe kind of newer to what's been going on, but you got up here and you were still playing. You were still involved in things. Is that right?
Yeah, I did one more year of touring after I decided to move up here. So my last touring year would be 2012.
Okay.
And then so 2013 on, I've been out of touring. But I was just lucky enough when I came up here. I got to meet some of the guys at the Melatones and some other people, and I started subbing in with them, and still do whenever they need help. But yeah, it was just interesting. As soon as I moved up, like word got out before I could even meet people. People were coming up to me and, "Oh, you're the Nashville guy." But yeah.
Well, and so I want to talk to you a little bit about Nashville because it's one of those things where I know some people that have gone down there. I know some people that live down there and love it. I'm told, and correct me if I'm wrong. You auditioned and got a gig, but I'm told there's a bit of a dues paying cycle that takes place down there. No matter how good you are or whatever, you gotta earn your stripes and make sure. And maybe it's people kind of look at you as have you done your dues paying before you get a gig? Is that a fair statement?
Actually, in my case, no. So I'm the kind of the Cinderella story, I guess, of getting gigs. So I never really played professionally at all until I decided to try. And so at the time, I'd done some gigs with the drummer for Billy Currington, and he's still the drummer, Jamie Rogan. And he had told me that they were taking auditions. And so I have no road experience, no professional experience, just played in a cover band. And but when it came down to the gig, though, or the audition, like I learned the songs note for note, learned all the harmonies. Because I thought that was the standard, and it is the standard. So anyway, long story short, I was up against I think 4 or 5 other guitarists, and they all had artist gigs. So they had legitimate touring gigs, and they wanted to move over to Billy. And I ended up getting the gig, and basically they told me that I got the gig because I was the only one who showed up and learn the songs.
Well, no, that's interesting, right? And a little bit about that in a second, but you're like the guy that wins the $50 million lotto, and they talk to him, and oh, geez, it's the first time I played the lotto. It's rare, right? And
It is rare.
you've been down there, you've probably seen the other side where there's people that should be playing huge gigs that just never get that opportunity.
That's right. I was extremely lucky. it's all in who you know. Is the big thing. It's timing, who you know, and really like it's for the touring. There's two worlds. There's the touring world, and then there's sessions. But for the touring world, it's more important. Like the threshold is everybody has to be at least good enough to do the gig. So that's a given. And but really for touring, most bands, the crew, everybody is looking for who's the best hang, who has the best work ethic, who shows up on time, who shows up prepared, and treats it like what it is, which is a job. But it was amazing how, I knew hundreds of guitarists in town, but when it came to, even when people came to me, once I got the gig touring, like they'd say, "Hey, do you recommend anybody for, to come audition?" Sometimes it would be less than 5 people that I could truly put my name out there and say, these guys have the total package. So there's a lot of competition, but you wouldn't believe how many people lose gigs within 6 months, a year. It's never because they're playing. It's everything that happens outside.
I think it's really important that you're saying that. I really do, because there's a couple of people that I'm friends with in the States who it always seems like they're playing on every record, or when somebody needs a fill in, they get the call. And I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Matt Starr, and Matt's a drummer who plays with Ace Frehley.
Yeah.
And I said, "Why is it that your name keeps coming up?" He goes, "It's exactly what you just said. I'm very well networked. I show up prepared, and I'm not an idiot." And that's been ringing with me, because, you can go on and see people do thousands of videos and be amazing, but why aren't they working? We don't know.
That's right.
I think we do know, right?
Yeah. That's exactly it. 100%.
So you're obviously, you're known as, by me anyway. I mean, like, it was funny when I saw you play a couple of weeks ago at Monty's, and you were singing the song. I went up to you afterwards and I said, "Oh, you put your glasses on. Here we go." Right.
Yeah.
I hate to say country guy, but I mean, you're an absolutely shredder on that style of music. Is that your first love, or is that just where you wound up?
No, that's where I wound up. My first love was rock and roll. It's like I was a huge like hair metal band guy growing. Oh, loved it. And played that a lot, and then got into blues some and through my teenage years. But then just realized, like, almost in my 20s, that, I could get a lot more gigs around town, paying gigs, honestly, playing country. So I started learning a lot more country about the age of 19 or 20, and really buckled down and did that. I do love country. It's just, it actually wasn't my first love, believe it or not. Just pays the bills.
Well, there you go. And you know what? It's funny, because I'm a hair metal guy. I mean, if you look here, I apparently did my part to send Gene Simmons' kids to university. But, I've slowly learned to appreciate country. I mean, one of the things that I get right away is that, and a friend of mine used to say it's rock music now with twangy singers. It's not that old lap steel guitar and all that stuff. And it's cool. And I get there's a formula, and you can tell there's a formula. But I think it's cool that you're saying that, because I had no idea that that's kind of was your trajectory. And now, are you still the open-minded guy? Like, you'll take a gig of interest, or is there one thing that you like to play more than anything else?
Not at all. Like I said, I'm fortunate enough to still be called, like to sub in from the Melatones, which is all soul and funk. I do that. I get called in, or I still do some blues bands, just, straight up, almost old school blues. Like I play with the Negligence is my band that play with. So actually some of the guys with the Melatones, and Ben Ross on drums. Basically just almost anything. I still get calls. It's basically, I enjoy subbing in with bands. But I think I just get the call for it because they know I'll do the homework and show up and do it. But just recently, though, I started getting back into more of the traditional country, which like the band Silverado that I'm in now, it's like, it's mostly 80s and 90s country, but it's not traditional per se, like that far back. But it's the closest I can get. That was almost like the last couple of decades of guitar solos.
Yeah. We're gonna take a break here in segment one. We're gonna be bouncing back for segment two with my new good buddy Clint Newcom. And you like what you're seeing, folks? You got to hit that subscribe button, man, because I mean that's how we all keep the lights on in these places. So we're back after this.